Naya had lived most of her life in the wide, open land where the wind carried the sound of distant rivers and the sky stretched like a giant blue blanket. She belonged to an Apache family known for their calm nature and respect for the earth. People in her tribe admired her for her quiet strength, but admiration was not the same as companionship. Admiration did not keep a person warm at night. Admiration did not fill the feeling of emptiness she sometimes felt when she watched other women laugh with their husbands or sit beside someone who cared for them. From childhood, Naya had been different. She was thoughtful, often lost in her own world. She liked to sit by the stream near her village, watching the water move. She enjoyed listening to elders share stories and found comfort in silence. But the same quietness that made her gentle also made people misunderstand her. Many believed she was unfriendly, though she never meant to be. She simply struggled to say the right words at the right time, especially when speaking to someone she hoped would notice her. As the years passed, one proposal after another slipped away. Some young men in her tribe traveled to new places and never returned. Some chose other women who were more talkative, more open, or more confident. Naya watched each opportunity fade, like smoke rising into the wind. She tried not to think too deeply about it, yet late at night the thoughts always returned. Sometimes, when she walked through the small western town near her home, she heard whispers behind her. She looks too serious. She never smiles much. She's different. These words were not said with anger, but they still hurt. Naya wanted a life where someone would look at her and see more than the quiet woman who kept to herself. She wanted someone who understood her heart, without asking her to change everything about herself. There was a day, near the end of a long summer, when Naya felt the weight of her loneliness more strongly than ever. She had just returned from a gathering, where she saw a couple announce their marriage. Everyone clapped, and though Naya smiled politely, a small ache gathered in her chest. When she walked home, she whispered to herself, "No one wants me." She didn't say it with anger or sadness, just a soft, tired acceptance of what she believed was her reality. She sat outside her home that evening, watching the sun fall behind the mountains. The sky changed colors, slowly orange, pink, then a calm shade of purple. She loved these sunsets, but watching them alone felt different now. She had seen too many sunsets by herself. She longed for someone to sit beside her, someone who would share quiet moments without expecting her to be someone she was not. Her family had tried to encourage her. Her mother once told her, "The right person will find you when the time is true." But Naya was no longer sure that such moments existed for her. The world kept moving, and she felt like she was standing still. There came a day when she decided she could not wait for life to simply happen. She needed to take one more step before giving up completely. She didn't want to surrender to loneliness without trying everything she could. This thought stayed with her, growing stronger each day, until she finally made a decision. She would visit the town again, and she would try to open her heart, even if it scared her. She chose a day when the air was cool, and soft clouds covered the sun. She dressed in her simple but neatly woven clothes, brushing her long dark hair until it fell smoothly over her shoulders. She looked at herself in the small, polished metal mirror she kept. She didn't see a woman who was lacking. She saw someone who had survived many quiet disappointments and kept going. She was not weak. She simply wanted someone to share her life with. The walk to the town was peaceful. The path was lined with tall grass, moving like waves in the wind. Birds flew overhead, calling out to one another. Naya felt a mixture of hope and fear with every step she took. What if nothing changed? What if she ended up feeling even more alone than before? When she reached the town, she saw people going about their daily work. The blacksmith hammered metal, sparks flying around him. The shopkeepers arranged their goods. Children ran through the dusty streets, chasing each other and laughing freely. Naya watched all of it quietly, her hands folded together in front of her. She went to the trading post where she sometimes exchanged items from her tribe: woven baskets, herbs, and handmade tools. The owner, an older woman named Mrs. Turner, greeted her kindly. "Good to see you, Naya," she said. You always bring such fine things. Naya nodded politely. She wasn't nervous about trading. She had done it many times. What made her anxious was the thought that today, she was hoping for more than just trade. She was hoping for a chance to find someone who might understand her, someone who might listen to her heart without judgment. Mrs. Turner noticed something in Naya's expression. "You look thoughtful today," she said gently. Naya smiled a little. "Just thinking," she replied, keeping the real reason inside her heart. After the trade was finished, Naya stepped outside and walked toward the open road where travelers often passed. Sometimes, she saw cowboys riding through, some loud, some quiet, some friendly, some distant. She didn't expect anything, but she hoped. Even a small conversation could be a beginning. As she stood there, a soft wind blew, lifting a few strands of her hair. Her eyes searched the horizon, not knowing what she was looking for, but feeling a silent wish inside her. She didn't want riches. She didn't want a perfect life. She wanted a companion who saw her as she was. She wanted someone who would stay not out of obligation, but out of choice. She thought of all the times she had stepped back, letting opportunities pass because she was too shy to speak. Today, she promised herself she would not step back if life placed someone in her path. She would speak honestly, even if her voice trembled. Naya walked slowly through the town again, observing people, studying faces, searching for a sign, anything that might guide her. Every person she saw seemed to be busy with their own concerns. Families, workers, travelers, all of them seemed to belong somewhere. She felt like a small leaf floating in a large river, moving without direction. But then she reminded herself of something. She still had courage. Quiet courage, but courage nonetheless. She had endured every disappointment without letting it turn her heart cold. She had kept her hopes alive even when they felt fragile. As the sun began to lean lower in the sky, she found herself standing near the horse stable at the edge of town. She loved horses. They understood silence better than people did. While she watched a group of riders prepare their horses, her eyes landed on a man she had seen before, a cowboy with calm eyes and a quiet way of moving. Almost like he carried a gentle piece of the land with him. She didn't know his name, but she had noticed him several times. He never looked rushed. He never raised his voice. He never seemed to mock or judge anyone. There was something steady about him that made her heart pay attention. She didn't approach him that day. She simply watched from a distance, unsure of what the future would hold. But she felt something new, something she had not felt in a long time. A small spark of hope. Maybe this journey she started would not end in disappointment. Maybe everything she had endured was leading her toward a moment she could not yet see. Naya breathed in deeply, letting the cool air calm her heart. She didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in many months, she felt a quiet belief growing inside her. The belief that life might still have a place for her. The belief that she might still find someone who wanted to walk beside her. The belief that loneliness was not the end of her story. And without knowing it yet, she had already taken the first step toward the person who would soon change her life forever. Cole had always been known as the quiet cowboy who kept to himself. He was not cold or unfriendly. He simply spoke only when he had something meaningful to say. People in town often wondered about him. Some said he had lived through losses that made him careful with his heart. Others believed he simply preferred silence over loud company. Whatever the truth was, Cole lived each day with calm determination, focusing on his work and avoiding unnecessary attention. He lived in a small cabin a few miles outside town, where the land spread open in every direction. In the mornings, he rode his horse, Ranger, across the fields to check the fences and look after the cattle he helped manage. He enjoyed the simple rhythm of his days, the sound of hooves on dirt, the wind brushing past his ears, the distant call of birds. Unlike many cowboys who liked the noise of saloons and night gatherings, Cole preferred the company of the open sky. He had friends in town, but he never shared much of himself. When people asked about his past, he always smiled politely and changed the subject. Most people respected his boundaries. They saw the sincerity in his eyes and knew he did not hide anything out of pride. He simply belonged to the kind of people who carried their stories quietly. There was one thing almost everyone in town noticed. Cole never tried to build a family or seek companionship. Some wondered why a good-looking, hard-working cowboy with such a gentle nature never gave his heart to anyone. The answer was known only to him. Years ago, Cole had loved someone deeply, a woman who had dreams that stretched farther than the open plains. She wanted a life full of travel, excitement, and big cities, while Cole wished for a peaceful home on the land. Their dreams were different, and eventually, she left, choosing a path that did not include him. She never meant to hurt him, but the goodbye had cut deeper than she realized. Since then, Cole had closed the door to new possibilities. He didn't lose faith in love, but he believed it was something that might never come for him again. He accepted the solitude that came with his life, and learned to be content with his work, his horse, and the small joys of each day. One quiet afternoon, he rode into town to pick up supplies. The air was warm, and a thin cloud of dust followed Ranger's steps. Cole tied his horse outside the trading post and walked in, nodding politely to Mrs. Turner, who smiled in her usual friendly way. "You're early today, Cole," she said as she arranged some baskets on a shelf. "Needed a few things before sunset," he replied in his calm voice. He spent a few minutes collecting items: rope, dried goods, a small tin of coffee. As he was about to leave, he felt a gentle stillness behind him, as if someone was standing quietly just a few steps away. When he turned, he saw Naya. He had seen her before, many times, but only from a distance. She often came to trade items from her tribe, moving with a soft grace that was hard to overlook. Her eyes were deep and thoughtful, and her quiet presence seemed to blend into the room rather than demand attention. Cole admired that about her. She carried herself with kindness, without needing to prove anything. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Cole thought she might walk past him, but instead, she offered him a small, shy smile. He returned the smile gently, feeling an unexpected warmth in his chest. It surprised him. He wasn't someone who reacted quickly or emotionally, but something about Naya always made him pause. He nodded politely and stepped aside so she could pass. She thanked him softly and moved to the counter to speak with Mrs. Turner. Cole finished paying for his supplies and left the shop, but his mind remained on the quiet woman inside. He had noticed Naya many times, though he never told anyone. He respected her strength, the way she carried herself with calm dignity, while others whispered about her being too quiet. Cole never saw it that way. To him, silence was a language of its own, and Naya spoke it well. He tied his supplies to Ranger and prepared to leave, but something made him pause. He looked back at the trading post, wondering why he suddenly felt the urge to stay a little longer. He wasn't sure what he expected, he only knew that something inside him felt different, as though a small door he had kept closed for years had quietly opened a little. Meanwhile, Naya stepped out of the trading post a few minutes later. She held a small bundle of goods and looked around the town, her eyes drifting over the busy street. When she turned toward the stable area, she caught sight of Cole standing beside his horse. She hesitated for a moment, feeling her heart beat a little faster. She had always admired him from afar, just as he had admired her. But she had never spoken to him, not even a few simple words. She took a slow breath and started walking in his direction. She wasn't sure what she would say, but she knew that if she walked away today, she might lose the courage to ever speak to him again. This might be the moment she had been waiting for without realizing it. Cole noticed her approaching and straightened slightly. His heart, usually steady and calm, felt unexpectedly alert. He didn't know why she was coming toward him, but he felt grateful for it. When Naya finally reached him, she held her bundle close to her chest and looked up into his eyes. Her voice was soft but steady when she spoke. "Hello," she said. Cole felt his chest warm again. "Hello," he replied gently. There was a brief silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like the kind of silence shared by two people who understood quiet moments. Naya gathered her courage. I have seen you many times, she said honestly. You seem kind. Cole wasn't used to hearing compliments, especially from someone like her. He nodded slightly, a small smile touching his lips. Thank you, he said. She looked at him for a moment, studying his calm expression. She could sense a softness in him, a kindness that matched her own need for peace and sincerity. She didn't feel judged or misunderstood. She felt safe. I don't talk much, Naya explained quietly. People sometimes think I am unfriendly, but I am not. I don't talk much either, Cole said with a small chuckle. So, I understand. Naya felt her shoulders relax. She hadn't expected him to respond in such a warm way. She had not expected anything at all. Really, she had only hoped. They stood together for a while, speaking little but understanding much. Cole asked her about the items she traded, and she told him about her tribe's crafts. She asked him about his horse, and he shared a small story about Ranger's stubborn habits. Their conversation was simple, but it felt meaningful. All the while, Cole noticed the sincerity in her eyes, the honesty with which she spoke. He felt something stir inside him, something gentle but undeniable. He had not felt such calm comfort with anyone in a long time. When their conversation came to a natural pause, Naya looked down at her hands, unsure if she should say what she was thinking. But she had promised herself she would be brave today. I would like to talk again, she said softly. Cole met her gaze, and for the first time in many years, he felt the beginning of something new, something hopeful. I would like that too, he replied. Naya felt her heart warm. She nodded and stepped back slowly. Cole watched her walk away, feeling a sensation he had nearly forgotten, the feeling of being drawn to someone not by excitement, but by gentle connection. As he untied Ranger and prepared to leave, he found himself smiling. Not a large smile, but a quiet one. The kind that stays in the heart for hours after. On his ride back home, the sky was glowing with late afternoon light. The land looked familiar, but his heart felt different. He couldn't explain it, but he sensed that something meaningful had begun that day. He didn't know where it would lead. He didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long while, Cole felt that life might still hold a place for companionship. And he felt that maybe, just maybe, the quiet Apache woman with the gentle eyes would be part of that place. In the days that followed their first real conversation, Naya found herself thinking about Cole more often than she expected. She thought about the calm way he listened, the gentleness in his eyes, and the quiet patience in his voice. She remembered how he smiled softly when she spoke, as if her words mattered. This was new to her. Most people listened only halfway. Most people judged her silence before she could explain herself. But Cole had listened fully, quietly, and kindly. Cole, too, found his thoughts drifting toward Naya. When he worked on the ranch, brushing down the horses or checking the fences, he noticed her voice replaying in his mind. He remembered how she stood with quiet courage, how she had looked directly into his eyes when she said she wasn't unfriendly, only quiet. He admired her honesty. Many people hid their true selves behind noise or pretending. But Naya had stood there openly, not trying to impress him, just trying to be understood. A few days after their first talk, they met again at the trading post. Neither had planned it. It simply happened. Cole had walked in to buy feed and small tools, while Naya had come to trade baskets. When they saw each other, a warm peace settled around them. Naya smiled shyly. You are here again, Cole nodded. Seems I came at the right time. This simple exchange made both of them feel something shift. They talked for a while. Not about anything important, but every small word felt meaningful. They spoke about the weather, the changing seasons, and the wildflowers that were beginning to bloom outside town. Their conversation flowed easily, even though both spoke softly. After that day, it became natural for their paths to cross. Sometimes Cole would see her in town and walk with her for a few minutes. Other times, she would find him near the stables and share a quiet moment beside him. Their connection grew slowly, without pressure. It was the kind of bond that formed like a plant growing toward sunlight. Naturally, steadily, without noise, but inside Naya's heart, a heavy truth remained. She knew she was not simply looking for a friend. She was searching for something deeper, companionship, comfort, and a partner who would stay by her side. She had carried this longing for years. And now that she felt a connection with Cole, the truth pressed even harder against her heart. She feared telling him. She feared he would think she was desperate or strange, yet she knew she needed to speak honestly. She had promised herself she would no longer hide her heart out of fear. She had only one life, and she did not want to spend it wondering, what if? One quiet evening, the sky painted in soft shades of peach and gold, Naya stood near the edge of town waiting for Cole. She knew he often passed by this spot at sunset, after finishing his work. She held her shawl close around her shoulders as a cool breeze drifted through. When Cole appeared riding Ranger, Naya felt her heart tighten. She lifted a hand to greet him. He slowed his horse and dismounted gently. "Evening, Naya," he said, brushing dust off his gloves. "Evening," she replied softly. There was a calm silence before she spoke again. "Cole, can we talk for a moment?" The seriousness in her tone made him look at her more carefully. "Of course," he said. They walked to a large flat rock near the path and sat down. The sun was nearly gone, and the sky began to blend into twilight. Naya took a slow breath, gathering her courage. "There is something I need to say," she began. Cole waited patiently, sensing the weight of her feelings. Naya looked down at her hands. "I have lived many years feeling alone," she said softly. "People in my tribe respect me. But respect is not the same as belonging to someone. I want a partner. Cole. Someone I can share life with. Someone who stays." Cole's expression softened. He could hear the pain hidden behind her calm voice. She continued, her words steady but filled with years of unspoken emotion. "I am growing older. Many around me have families. I have watched them build homes, raise children, share their lives. But I remain alone. I do not want to spend the rest of my life that way." Cole felt his heart tighten at her honesty. Naya lifted her eyes to his. Her voice trembled slightly as she said, "I need a husband. Cole. Someone who will choose me. Someone who will not leave. This is my final chance to ask for what I need, and I do not want to hide it anymore." Her words were not dramatic. They were simple, true, and brave. She was not begging in a helpless way. She was speaking from the deepest part of her heart, offering her truth without expecting anything in return. Cole felt the weight of her sincerity. He admired her courage immensely. Few people had the strength to speak their hearts so openly. "Naya," he said quietly, unsure how to begin. But she gently shook her head. "You don't need to answer now. I only needed to tell you the truth. I did not want to pretend we were just two people talking. I wanted you to know why I came to you. If you cannot choose me, I will understand. But I needed to say it." Cole sat very still, letting her words settle inside him. He thought of his past, of the heartbreak he had carried for years. He thought of how he had closed his heart to the possibility of companionship. Yet now, sitting beside Naya, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: hope. After a long moment, he spoke. "I respect your honesty more than I can say," he told her. "You are brave, Naya. Braver than I have ever been." Naya's eyes grew warm, but she said nothing. Cole looked toward the horizon, thinking deeply. "I have kept my heart closed for many years," he admitted. "Not because I didn't want companionship, but because I was afraid to try again." Naya listened carefully. "You coming to me like this, it means something," he continued. "It makes me think about things I've pushed aside for too long." Naya felt a small flutter in her chest. She could hear something gentle in his voice that she had not heard from him before. Cole wasn't ready to give her a promise. He wasn't ready to make a decision on the spot, but he wasn't stepping away either. That meant something. They sat together for a while in the fading light. Their silence was peaceful, not awkward. It was the kind of silence shared by two people who trusted each other enough not to fill every moment with words. After a while, Cole stood and offered her his hand. She took it, feeling the warmth in his touch. "Let's walk a little," he said softly. They walked slowly along the road, side by side, their shadows stretching long behind them. They didn't speak much, but the closeness between them felt real and strong. Naya felt lighter. She had carried her truth for years, and now she had finally spoken it. She didn't know what Cole would decide in the coming days, but she felt grateful he had listened with such kindness. Cole felt something inside him beginning to shift, like an old door creaking open after being locked for too long. He wasn't sure where the path with Naya would lead, but he knew one thing. He wanted to walk it gently, thoughtfully, and honestly. And for the first time in many years, he felt ready to consider a future that included someone beside him. Not just anyone, but someone whose heart spoke quietly and sincerely. Just like his own, the days after their long walk were filled with quiet thinking for both Naya and Cole. Neither of them rushed, neither forced the other to make promises. They simply carried the memory of their honest conversation in their hearts and allowed it to guide their thoughts. Naya spent most of her time helping her family, weaving baskets, and walking along the familiar paths near her village. But now, everything felt slightly different. There was a softness in her steps, a calm hope she tried not to let grow too fast. She didn't want to expect too much, but she also couldn't deny the warm feeling that Cole had planted inside her heart. She smiled more than usual, small, shy smiles that appeared when she remembered his gentle voice saying she was brave. Cole, on the other hand, found himself pausing during his daily work. Sometimes, while feeding Ranger or repairing a fence, he would stop and stare at the horizon, thinking about Naya's words. She had spoken with such honesty, such courage, offering her heart without pretending or hiding. He respected that more deeply than he could explain. Her truth made him question the walls he had built around his own heart. He realized something important. He wasn't afraid of Naya. He wasn't afraid that she would leave like someone once had. She felt steady. She felt real. She felt like the kind of person who stayed, someone who didn't walk away when things grew quiet or difficult. And that meant more to him than any grand promise or dramatic explanation. One morning, when the sun was still rising and the land was cool, Cole saddled Ranger and rode toward the Apache village. He wasn't going there for trade. He wasn't going to talk about supplies or work. He was going because he needed clarity. He needed to see Naya. He needed to decide what role he wanted her to have in his life. As he approached the village, children noticed him first. They pointed excitedly, watching the cowboy ride in. Some elders nodded politely, knowing him as the quiet man who always showed respect. Naya's mother, who was gathering herbs nearby, glanced up in surprise. She didn't know his intention, but she recognized something thoughtful in his expression. Naya was sitting near the stream when she heard footsteps approaching. She turned and froze for a moment when she saw Cole walking toward her, his horse tied to a tree behind him. Her heart beat faster, and her hands paused mid-movement over the basket she had been working on. "You came," she whispered. "I needed to," Cole said gently. He sat down on a smooth stone near her, leaving enough space to show respect but close enough to show his purpose. For a moment, neither spoke. The sound of the running water filled the space between them. Naya's eyes searched his face softly. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't nervous. But she could feel something important coming. Cole looked at the stream, gathering his thoughts the way he always did before speaking from the heart. "You asked me for honesty," he said quietly. "You gave me yours. I think it's my turn to give you mine." Naya folded her hands and waited, her eyes never leaving his. "I closed my heart for a long time," he began. "But these past days, something changed. You made me think about things I never let myself think about anymore. You made me remember what companionship feels like. Not the loud kind, the simple, peaceful kind." Naya's breath caught softly in her chest. Cole turned to her, his expression calm but sincere. "I can't promise to be perfect. I can't promise I'll never worry or overthink. But I can promise something else. If you will have me, I am willing to walk into a life together. Slow, steady, honest, one step at a time. Naya stared at him, her heart filling with warmth so deep it almost felt heavy. She had dreamed of hearing words like these, but she had never expected them from someone who understood her so well, someone whose silence felt like home, not emptiness. Cole, she whispered, her voice trembling just a little. I would walk with you anywhere. Hearing that, the last bit of uncertainty inside him faded. He gently reached out his hand, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering. Naya looked at it for a moment, then placed her hand in his. This simple touch felt like the beginning of something powerful, something soft yet strong enough to last a lifetime. In the days that followed, Cole visited the village often. He met Naya's family, spoke respectfully to the elders, and showed that his intentions were genuine. Naya, in turn, visited Cole's cabin. She walked with him through the open fields, helped him feed the animals, and sat beside him on the porch watching sunsets that finally felt shared. They talked about simple things, dreams, past memories, and the quiet joys they both loved. The more time they spent together, the clearer it became to both of them that they belonged to each other in a way that felt natural and true. One evening, while they sat outside Cole's cabin watching the sky turn shades of orange and gold, he finally spoke the words he had been waiting to say. Naya, he said softly, I want us to build a life together. Not just today. Not just this season. I want a future with you. A home. A family. If life allows it. Naya turned to him slowly. The soft glow of the setting sun lit her face, and there was a peaceful strength in her eyes. I want the same, she said. I have wanted it for a long time. I just didn't know it would come from someone like you. He smiled in a way he rarely smiled, quiet, warm, full of real emotion. A few days later, they stood before Naya's tribe, with elders and families gathered around. It wasn't a grand ceremony. It wasn't full of noise or decorations. It was simple, honest, and filled with heart, exactly the kind of life they both wanted. Cole placed a handmade woven band around Naya's wrist, a symbol of joining. Naya gently tied a small string of beads on Cole's wrist, a symbol of trust and unity. The elders blessed their union with soft words, and the community welcomed Cole as someone who had shown great respect. When the ceremony ended, Naya stood beside Cole, feeling a warmth inside her she had never known before. She had once whispered to the wind, "No one wants me." But now, she stood with someone who not only wanted her, but chose her openly, sincerely, and willingly. As they walked away from the gathering, hand in hand, Naya leaned her head lightly against Cole's shoulder. The world around them felt softer, kinder, and finally complete. They returned to Cole's cabin, not just as two people trying to understand each other, but as partners ready to build a life together. Their days were filled with shared work, shared meals, and shared silence that no longer felt lonely. Sometimes they spoke for hours. Sometimes they said nothing at all. Either way, they understood each other deeply. Naya found a place where she belonged. Cole found a future he thought he would never have. Together, they created a home where both their quiet hearts could live in peace. Their story became known in both the Apache village and the nearby town, not as a tale of drama or struggle, but as a gentle reminder that true companionship doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, patiently, and with steady steps toward each other. In the end, Naya never again whispered that no one wanted her. She no longer carried that lonely ache. She had a husband who chose her because he saw her truth, her strength, and her gentle heart. And Cole, who once believed his days of companionship were over, discovered that life still held a space for love, even after years of silence. Together, they proved that simple love, honest, patient, and sincere, can fill an empty heart more deeply than anything else.